Welcome back to Equine Photo School's barrel racing course. Now, we're going to talk about gear. Everybody loves gear, right? If you don't love gear, are you even a photographer? Just joking, just joking. I happen to love gear. That's one of the reasons I love photography so much, is all the cool stuff I can buy and have and, help make my photos better or cooler or whatever. But when you're just starting out, you don't need all that gear. In fact, a lot of that gear is going to stand in your way of getting better if you're not careful. Okay, and there's some gear that has nothing to do with photography, but just keeping you alive throughout the event, okay, about the whole weekend. We're going to break this down into beginner gear, intermediate gear, and then some pro level stuff, so you have something to aspire to later down the road. Now, you might not have a camera rig just like this, okay? This is a 120 to 300 lens with 1.4x teleconverter on it and a big bad pro body sitting on the end of this big thing. Now, this is heavy. This thing weighs in at about 15 pounds. It is a beast to run. You're going to need special equipment to operate it, and you don't want to hold this, pick it up and set it down all day, so you need support equipment. You're going to need other stuff to go with this. This is a lot. This is a beast. This is the pro level stuff. We're going to get to that. We're going to get to that in a little bit. For now, let's set that off to the side, because I don't want you to start there. I don't think it's good for anybody to just start out with that. I think you need to just start out wherever you're at. If you already have a camera, you already have a lens, start there. Please do not buy anything for this adventure. If you're not sure about this barrel racing photography thing, please do not go and spend a bunch of money on better equipment to take slightly better barrel racing pictures if you're not really committed, right? So I want you to be doing this for a year or more with your kind of basic equipment before you start buying more gear. But let's talk about some of this basic gear I want you to start with. Now, if you already have a camera, great, start with that. If you don't have a camera, let's go shopping for an entry-level camera. So that changes from month to month, really. There's always new cameras coming out. There's always something that's slightly better than the last something, whatever it was, okay? But for an entry-level camera, we're gonna be looking somewhere between $750 and $1,500 for the body alone. And then sometimes that comes with a kit lens. You want to get the longest kit lens you can. If it comes with a 16 to 35 millimeter, that's going to be too wide, right? We're going to be looking at something along the lines of a 75 to 300 millimeter lens. Something like that could come in handy. Just anywhere in that range. You want at least 50 millimeters, and on the long end, it could be 400 millimeters. Now, if you buy a camera, just the body alone, no lens with it, what I would personally recommend you do is go and get an all-in-one zoom lens. That could be something like a 16 to 400 millimeter Tamron lens. Okay, they make aftermarket lenses. Tamron is an entry-level lens company. They're not great glass, they're not high quality anything, but they're cheap. They're affordable, right? They're decent enough to get you by. They put pretty good glass in them, even though the stuff surrounding the glass isn't really great, but it's good. It'll get you started. It'll get your feet wet. So start out with this cheaper gear, this entry-level gear, something like that, 16 to 35. That will be good for no matter what kind of photography you want to do. From ultra-wide to super telephoto, it's kind of got it all. Now, it doesn't go to aperture f2.8 like we've talked about in other videos, but it's a good lens. It's a good all-around lens. It will get you going, and that's more important than having the best quality images right out of the gate. Let's get you some practice. Let's get you out there doing it, learning how it works. Let me tell you something. A lot of people think that you have to have something like this beast before you can start charging money for pictures, and that is not true. Let me tell you a little story about how I got started in this photography thing, right? The very first thing that I ever shot was disc golf. Okay, I got a camera, and 2 days later I was playing disc golf with my buddies, and I shot pictures of them playing disc golf, and that was fine, whatever, it was just for funsies. And then 2 weeks later, I had my very first gig, and that was a barrel race. So that's what we're doing here, teaching barrel racing photography, because that's how I got my start in this thing. So I was there doing that, and I had a Canon 70D, very entry level for back in the day. And then it came with a couple of like kit lenses, and that's just what I shot with. I think I had like an 18 to 55 and then a 75 to 300, maybe something like that. Anyway, whatever. I grabbed the longer of the two lenses and I went out and started taking pictures at this barrel race, and I didn't know what to do, and I just tried my best and I learned, and I didn't have anybody teaching me, even though I thought I might when I got there, but he ended up not showing. And then so I just learned it all on my own ever since then, and I'm saving you a lot of trouble right now. Some of you are thinking that you can't make a bunch of money with this entry-level stuff. You think you have to have really fancy camera gear, all this stuff. But I was telling you, I just got started with this entry-level camera gear, and I'll tell you what, I made $100,000 on my first calendar year with just that entry-level gear. I didn't have very much else. I didn't have fancy equipment. I had a little bit of a booth set up, and I had that basic camera gear, nothing fancy. I had a printer and a booth and a camera, and I just went on and did my best, okay? And my best was pretty good, but you can do it too. You can go in, and it's just about booking a lot of events. You want to go in there, listen to that podcast episode about booking events and getting into the next event and the next event, and how it can snowball very quickly into a whole bunch of events, and pretty soon you filled your calendar. But if you're like me, you're a real go-getter, you're watching this, you want to learn how to do really good stuff, use that gear, maximize that gear. I wore that camera out, okay? And I went and bought another camera and I wore it out, and I had that entry-level camera gear. Just, it was pretty gnarly by the time I was done with it, okay? But just start out with that. Start out with whatever basic entry-level camera you can. Hopefully it's a mirrorless. This day and age, I expect you to get a mirrorless. Don't go DSLR anymore. They're going to quit making them altogether soon, so if you can get your hands on one, don't. Just get yourself a mirrorless camera, and then let's move forward from there, okay? Then get yourself the all-in-one zoom lens. Say you get that Tamron 16 to 400, I think it is. That's a huge zoom range. That will get you going, okay? So you've got that. You're probably in it like less than $1,500 at this point, I would imagine. You can just hold it right there, and you can shoot pictures. You can set it down in between things so you can keep track of who's next. Go and watch that video if you haven't already. You're going to need some memory cards to go with that, so look and see what type of memory cards your camera takes, and then go and buy memory cards for that, and then buy a hard case for them that's waterproof. If it's waterproof, it's dust proof, and we can keep that dust from the arena out of it. And then buy multiple cards. Fill that case up with cards. If you can, get at least 2 cards, because you want one with you and one in the booth if you're going to have a booth, which I recommend you do right out of the gate. I had a booth from day one, I had a crew from day one, and it was great. So I've made a lot of money by doing it that way, and you will too, okay? So the sooner you get started on that, the sooner you get over the learning curve of the booth and dealing with employees and stuff. So have a friend, go watch those booth videos. I've made a whole series on booth on YouTube. Go watch those. So you got your cards, and you've got your case, and you've got a camera and a lens. You're gonna need a folding chair. You're gonna need a chair of some kind. Sometimes you can steal one from the arena, just borrow it for the weekend. But it's better if you have your own chair. I would just get a folding, like a camp chair, go to Walmart, whatever, go buy a cheap camp chair if you don't already have one. First of all, shop your house. If you got one already, use that one, obviously. Then get a little cooler. So if you don't already have a little cooler, I just use this little, it was like a $10 cooler you can get at Walmart. It's not very good insulation, it's not very good at anything, but it'll hold a couple of sandwiches, it'll hold some water bottles, right? A little bit of ice, it'll hold your memory card case, whatever. It'll hold some stuff for you, napkins, whatever. I got a whole list of stuff that I always keep with me at all the times, and I'll link that so you can go check out that list of things that I always have with me in my cooler and on my person while I'm shooting events like barrel racing. Finally, your attire. Now you can just go in a t-shirt like this, just casual, just like we're talking right now. When you're just entry level, you're just getting started, don't go and buy you a whole new wardrobe for this. If you have a nice Western shirt, great, put that on. Look presentable. It would be nice, but chances are you're not shooting a very prestigious event anyway. Maybe you're just doing this for practice, and you're just on the outside of the arena. You haven't really gotten to where you can be in the arena yet, and that's okay. So just kind of dress nice, but casual is okay when you're just starting out. We're going to go into the next video. We're going to get to some intermediate stuff, but you should be making some pretty dang good money right out of the gate with entry-level gear.